I'm sitting here in a dark apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, the same city I left 3 years ago, with hope in my heart and $265,000 in my bank account. I came back 6 months ago with $14,000 and a soul so broken, I'm not sure it'll ever be whole again. My name is Martin Hale. I'm 61 years old. I was a firefighter for 33 years, and I thought I'd earned a peaceful retirement. I thought I'd go to Thailand, live cheaply, maybe find companionship, enjoy my remaining years without the stress and loneliness that had consumed me in the States. I was wrong about everything. People think Western men go to Thailand for cheap living or young women or some kind of exotic adventure. That's part of it, sure. But the real truth, the truth nobody talks about until it's too late, is that most of us go there running from something: loneliness, divorce, grief, the feeling that our lives peaked decades ago and we're just marking time until we die. Thailand promises an escape from all of that. Warm weather year-round. A cost of living so low your pension feels like wealth. Beautiful women who smile at you like you matter. A culture that seems to respect older men instead of making them invisible. It's intoxicating, and it's a trap. I'm not talking about all of Thailand. I'm not saying every Thai woman is a scammer or every expat relationship is doomed. But I am saying that there's a pattern, a systematic, well-refined pattern of targeting lonely Western men, exploiting their vulnerabilities, and extracting every dollar they have until there's nothing left. I've seen it happen to dozens of men. Good men, smart men, men who'd survived wars, built businesses, raised families, accomplished things. Men who weren't stupid or naive in their normal lives, but became easy marks the moment they felt the warmth of someone who seemed to care about them. And I watched it happen to myself. Despite every warning, despite every red flag, despite seeing it happen to others right in front of me, I still fell for it. Because loneliness makes you stupid in ways nothing else can. The majority of Western expats who move to Thailand full-time will leave broke. Not all of them, but most. They'll lose their savings to bar girls, to girlfriends who need help with family emergencies, to wives who convince them to invest in property they'll never actually own, to business schemes that only exist to drain bank accounts. Some will realize what's happening and cut their losses early. Others will cling to the illusion until they've lost everything. A few will never admit they were scammed, preferring to believe they were just unlucky in love rather than victims of calculated exploitation. I'm one of the ones who lost almost everything. $251,000 over 2.5 years. Gone. Just gone. Spent on a woman who never loved me, a house that was never built, a future that never existed except in my desperate imagination. This is my story, but it's also the story of every man I met in Thailand who trusted too much, loved too easily, and paid the price for believing that someone could genuinely care about them. We didn't get scammed because we were stupid. We got scammed because we were lonely. And loneliness, the kind that eats at you every single day, that makes you feel invisible and worthless and forgotten, will override every instinct for self-preservation you've ever had. Thailand doesn't scam your wallet first. It scams your heart. And by the time you realize what's happening, you've given away everything trying to hold on to something that was never real. This is how it happened to me, and how it happens to thousands of men just like me every single year. If you've been enjoying the stories I create, please consider hitting the subscribe button. Your support is crucial for the growth of this channel and helps me dedicate time to making these videos despite my commitment to a full-time job. Thank you for being here. I was a firefighter for 33 years. Started when I was 25, fresh out of the Marines, looking for a career that would let me keep serving without the military structure. The Phoenix Fire Department hired me in 1989, and I stayed until I retired at 58. It's dangerous work, obviously. You run toward things everyone else runs away from. Burning buildings, car accidents, medical emergencies, situations where people are dying and you're the only thing standing between them and death. It changes you. Makes you calm under pressure, good at compartmentalizing, comfortable with risk. But it also makes you closed off. You can't process 33 years of trauma in real time, so you build walls. You don't talk about the kid who didn't make it out of the house fire. You don't dwell on the accident victims who died in your arms. You just push it down, show up for the next shift, and keep doing the job. Those walls served me well at work. At home, they destroyed my marriage. I married young 27 to a woman named Linda who I'd met at a friend's barbecue. She was a kindergarten teacher, warm and nurturing in ways I wasn't. We had a good first decade together, or at least I thought we did. We tried for kids, but it never happened. Fertility issues that no amount of medical intervention could fix. Eventually, we just accepted it would be the two of us. By year 15, Linda started complaining that I was emotionally unavailable, that I never talked about my feelings, that living with me was like living with a well-meaning stranger who happened to share her bed. She wasn't wrong. I'd become so good at compartmentalizing that I'd compartmentalized our entire relationship. I was present physically, but absent emotionally, going through the motions of marriage without actually engaging. She left me when I was 46. Met someone else, a teacher at her school, who apparently knew how to have actual conversations about feelings. I can't blame her. She'd been trying to reach me for years, and I'd been too walled off to notice. The divorce was straightforward. No kids, assets split evenly. Both of us relieved to be free of something that hadn't worked in years. I kept working, she remarried, and we went our separate ways. After Linda, I dated occasionally, but nothing serious. The walls I'd built to survive firefighting also kept everyone else out. I'd go on dates, feel the familiar discomfort of trying to connect, and let things fade away rather than risk vulnerability. By my late 50s, I'd accepted that I'd probably spend the rest of my life alone. It wasn't what I wanted, but it seemed like the natural consequence of being emotionally unavailable for so long. Then I retired. The department threw me a party, gave me a plaque, wished me well. I walked out after 33 years with a pension that would pay about $3,000 a month, a lump sum of about $115,000 from my deferred compensation plan, and another $150,000 in savings I'd accumulated over the years. Total, about $265,000 plus monthly income. Comfortable by Arizona standards, wealthy by developing world standards. The first few months of retirement were disorienting. I'd spent my entire adult life defined by my job, and suddenly that was gone. I tried to fill the time, went to the gym, did projects around my house, took a road trip through the Southwest, but nothing felt meaningful. The loneliness that I'd been ignoring for years suddenly became impossible to ignore. I'd go days without speaking to anyone except cashiers and waitstaff. My phone barely rang. My social circle had shrunk to almost nothing. The guys from the department had moved on, and I'd never built friendships outside of work. I was 58 years old, recently retired, financially comfortable, and profoundly alone. That's when I started researching places where American retirees could live cheaply and maybe find some kind of community. Thailand kept appearing in my searches. I'd never been to Asia, never really traveled internationally at all. But the stories from other retired Americans were compelling. Low cost of living, good weather, friendly people, a large expat community, and, though nobody said it directly, the implication that Western men were valued there in ways they weren't back home. That age didn't make you invisible, that you could find companionship, maybe even love, if you were willing to look. I booked a 3-week exploratory trip, flew to Bangkok, took a bus to Chiang Mai, and started figuring out if this was somewhere I could actually live. Within 2 weeks, I knew I was staying. The cost of living was absurdly low. I could rent a nice condo for what I'd spent on utilities in Phoenix. The weather was warm. The people were friendly. And most importantly, I felt less alone there than I had in years. I went back to Arizona, sold my house, sold my truck, sold most of my belongings, kept 2 suitcases of clothes and essentials, put everything else in storage, and moved to Thailand permanently. It was the best decision I'd ever made. Until it became the worst. I settled in Chiang Mai initially. The city was beautiful mountains, temples, a slower pace than Bangkok. There was a substantial expat community, mostly older Western men like me, and I fell into their routines easily. We'd meet at the same bars, the same restaurants, the same coffee shops, share stories about our lives back home, about adjusting to Thailand, about the challenges and pleasures of expat life. On the surface, everyone seemed happy, living the dream, enjoying retirement in paradise. But if you paid attention, if you really looked at these men, you'd see something else. A sadness in their eyes, a desperation beneath the smiles, a sense that they were running from something they couldn't outpace. Most of them had Thai girlfriends or wives, Young women, usually in their 20s or 30s, attached to men in their 50s, 60s, 70s. The age gaps were stark, impossible to ignore, but everyone pretended it was normal. Thai culture is different, they'd explain. Age is respected here. Women value stability and kindness over looks and youth. I wanted to believe them, wanted to believe that cultural differences could explain why beautiful young women would choose aging Western men. But even then, something felt off. I'd watch these couples interact. The women would be attentive, affectionate in public, but their eyes would wander. They'd be on their phones constantly, typing in Thai, smiling at messages their foreign boyfriends couldn't read. They'd disappear for hours with vague excuses about visiting family or helping friends. And the men would accept it, would make excuses for behavior that would have raised immediate red flags back home, because acknowledging the red flags would mean admitting they were being used. And that admission was too painful to face. I saw it, but didn't understand it yet. I was still in the honeymoon phase of expat life, enjoying the novelty, the affordability, the sense that I'd made a good decision. After 6 months in Chiang Mai, I moved to Pattaya. Chiang Mai was beautiful but quiet, maybe too quiet for someone trying to escape loneliness. Pattaya had a reputation as a party city, but it also had a massive expat community and infrastructure built around supporting foreigners. The city was overwhelming at first. The nightlife, the openly transactional nature of so many relationships, the bars full of older Western men and young Thai women whose arrangement was barely disguised. It was Thailand at its most honest, no pretense. Just commerce, dressed up as companionship. I avoided the bar scene initially. I wasn't looking for that kind of arrangement. I wanted something real, or at least something that felt real. A connection based on more than just financial exchange. That's when I met Dao. Her name was Sarunya, but everyone called her Dao. She was 33 years old, from a province called Buriram in northeastern Thailand, and she worked as an assistant at a day spa near my apartment. I'd gone in for a massage. My back still gave me problems after decades of firefighting, and Dao was working the front desk. She was beautiful in an understated way. Simple clothes, minimal makeup, a shy smile that seemed genuine rather than performative. "You are new customer?" she asked in careful English. "Yes, just moved to the area. Welcome. We give you good service, make you feel better." She was professional, courteous, nothing more. But there was a warmth to her that stood out. She wasn't aggressive like the bar girls I'd seen, wasn't pushy or flirtatious, just kind. I started going to that spa regularly, twice a week for massages, always making sure Dao was working the desk when I booked my appointments. We'd chat briefly when I checked in about my adjustment to Thailand, about her family back in Buriram, about the differences between Thai and American culture. "You are different from other Farang," she said one afternoon. "Different? How?" "More quiet. More respectful. Many foreign men, they are loud, think they can do anything because they have money. But you are gentle." The compliment touched something inside me. After years of feeling invisible, being noticed felt significant. Being called gentle felt like she'd seen something good in me that others missed. After about a month of these brief interactions, I asked if she'd like to have dinner sometime. She hesitated just for a moment, then smiled. "I would like that, but maybe coffee first? I want to know you better before dinner." We met for coffee at a small cafe near the beach. The conversation flowed easily, she told me, about growing up poor in Aizen, about moving to Pattaya to find work, about sending money home to her mother who still lived in the village. I told her about my career as a firefighter, about my divorce, about my decision to retire to Thailand. "You saved people?" she said, looking at me with something like admiration. "That is very brave work. In Thailand, we respect people who help others. It was just my job, but not everyone can do that job. You must have strong heart." I felt something shift inside me. This woman, this beautiful, kind woman, saw value in me, saw my career not as just a job, but as evidence of character. After years of Linda telling me I was emotionally unavailable, here was someone who seemed to appreciate exactly who I was. We started seeing each other regularly. Coffee became dinner. Dinner became walks on the beach. Walks became evenings at my apartment where she'd cook Thai food and we'd watch movies together. She never asked for money, never suggested expensive dates or hinted at gifts she wanted. She seemed genuinely content just spending time with me. And that contentment made me trust her more than anything else could have. "I don't want to be like other Pattaya girls," she said one evening. I don't want many men, don't want to work in bars. I want one good man. Build a real life together. Is that what you want with me? I asked. A real life? She took my hand. Yes, I think you are a good man, kind man. Maybe we can build something together. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She'd given me no reason to doubt her sincerity. And after years of loneliness, the idea that someone could want to build a life with me was too compelling to question. Looking back, I can see how perfectly she played me. The reluctance to accept money that made me trust her more. The emphasis on being different from other Pattaya girls. The way she positioned herself as someone looking for genuine connection rather than financial transaction. But at the time, I couldn't see any of it. I was too busy feeling valued, needed, important. Too busy believing that maybe my life wasn't over at 58. That maybe I could find love again, even in the most unlikely place. The first request for money came about 2 months into our relationship. Dao and I were having dinner at her favorite noodle shop when her phone rang. She looked at the screen, excused herself, and stepped outside to take the call. When she came back, her eyes were wet with tears. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately. "My mother," she whispered. "She is sick. My sister called from village. They need to take her to hospital, but they have no money for doctor." "How much do they need?" "Maybe 12,000 baht. I'm so sorry to tell you this. I don't want you to think I'm asking for money. I'm worried about my mother. Of course I'll help. Your mother needs medical care. That's not something you should have to worry about." The relief on her face seemed genuine. She hugged me tightly, thanking me over and over, promising her mother would pray for my health and happiness. I transferred 12,000 baht that night, about $330. Not a fortune, but meaningful. The kind of money that could make a real difference for a family living in rural Thailand. 2 weeks later, another request. Her mother needed more tests. The first round hadn't been conclusive. 18,000 baht this time, about $500. I paid it without hesitation. If Dao's mother was sick, she needed proper medical care. What kind of person would I be if I let financial concerns prevent someone from getting treatment? A month after that, more complications. The mother needed medicine that wasn't covered by the government healthcare system. 25,000 baht, about $700. I was starting to notice a pattern, but I pushed the thought away. Medical emergencies were expensive everywhere. These requests were reasonable. Dao wasn't asking for herself, she was asking for her mother. How could I say no to that? Then came the motorbike. Dao said she needed transportation to get to work more easily, to visit her family without depending on me for rides. A used motorbike would cost about 45,000 baht, maybe $1,200. "I don't want to depend on you for everything," she explained. "I want to be an independent woman. Having my own bike means I can work more, can take care of myself." I appreciated her desire for independence. Bought her the motorbike without questioning whether she really needed it or if it was just another extraction. Next came the apartment deposit. She was living in a small room, she said, and the landlord was raising the rent. If she moved to a better place, she'd need first month, last month, and a security deposit. Total, 38,000 baht. "Just until I get stable," she said. "I will pay you back when I can." I covered it. What was 38,000 baht compared to her comfort and stability? Then her brother's gambling debt. Some dangerous men were threatening him, and if the family didn't pay, there could be violence. 32,000 baht to make the problem go away. "I'm so sorry to keep asking," Dao said, tears streaming down her face. "My family has so many problems. I wish I could handle everything myself, but I'm just one person." "You're not alone anymore," I told her, holding her while she cried. "I'm here to help. That's what partners do." By this point, I'd given her about 170,000 baht over 5 months, about $4,700. Not devastating amounts individually, but they were adding up. And more concerning, the requests weren't slowing down. If anything, they were accelerating. But I told myself this was what relationships were, supporting each other through difficulties. Being there when your partner needed help. Dao would do the same for me if our situations were reversed, right? I didn't see what was really happening. She was testing me. Each request was a test to see how much I'd give, how readily I'd comply, how far she could push before I started questioning. And I was passing every test, proving myself to be exactly the kind of mark she'd been looking for. Generous, trusting, lonely enough to confuse financial support with love. The big move came about 8 months into our relationship. Dow and I were lying in bed one evening when she started talking about the future, about her dream of someday having a real home instead of just renting apartments, about wanting stability, permanence, a place that was hers. In my village, my family has land, she said. Small piece, maybe 3 ray. It's been in family for generations. My grandmother wants to give it to me, but I cannot afford to build house there. How much would it cost to build a house? Not much. Not like America. Maybe 1 million. 1,500,000 baht for small house. Nothing fancy, just 2 bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen. Simple and comfortable. I did the math. 1.5 million baht was about $42,000. A significant amount, but not unreasonable for building an entire house in rural Thailand. What if we built it together? I suggested. As an investment in our future. Her eyes lit up. You would do that? Build house with me? If we're going to be together long term, we need to think about these things. A house on your family's land makes sense. Cheaper than buying property elsewhere, and it gives us a place to grow old together. She started crying beautiful, overwhelming tears that seemed to come from deep emotion. You are most generous man I ever met. I promise I will take care of you forever. This house, it will be our home, our future. Over the following weeks, we made plans. She showed me photos of the land, a beautiful rural area, rice paddies in the distance, mountains on the horizon. She introduced me to a contractor who quoted 1,900,000 baht for a complete house. Foundation, walls, roof, plumbing, electrical, everything. 1.9 million baht. About $53,000. It would take a significant chunk of my savings, but I'd still have over $200,000 left. And the investment seemed sound. Property values in Thailand were rising, and having a house would give us security. I transferred the money in stages. 500,000 baht as an initial deposit, another 700,000 for materials, 600,000 for labor, finally another 100,000 for finishing touches. Dow kept me updated throughout. Photos of workers on site, progress shots of construction, timeline updates. Everything seemed legitimate. The contractor was real. The work was happening. Our house was taking shape. Except it wasn't. About 4 months into the construction, I decided to visit the site unannounced. I wanted to see our house, to walk through the rooms, to start imagining the life Dow and I would build there. I rented a car and drove to Buriram province following the GPS coordinates Dow had given me months earlier. The drive took about 5 hours, and I spent the whole time imagining our future weekends in the countryside, visits from her family, the peaceful retirement I'd been searching for. When I arrived at the coordinates, there was nothing. No house, no foundation, no construction materials. Just the same empty plot of land that had probably been sitting vacant for years. I got out of the car and walked the property. Looked for any evidence that work had ever been done. There was nothing. No disturbed earth. No markers showing where a foundation would go. No equipment or supplies. An elderly Thai woman emerged from a neighboring house, curious about the foreign man wandering around. She spoke no English, but through gestures and the few Thai words I knew, I tried to ask about the construction. She looked confused, shook her head, said something in Thai I couldn't understand. Her son came out, spoke some broken English. You look for house? Yes. My girlfriend Dow. Sarunya, her family, owns this land. We're building a house here. He exchanged a glance with his mother. They had a rapid conversation in Thai. Then he turned back to me. This land is my uncle's land, not Dow family. And no house building here. No workers, no construction. The ground shifted beneath me. Are you sure? This is the address she gave me. Yes, I'm sure. I live here my whole life. No construction happened here. Do you know Dow? Sarunya? He hesitated. I know that name. She from this area. But she has Thai boyfriend. They live in Pattaya together. Why she tell you this is her family land? I couldn't speak, couldn't process what he was telling me. I'd given Dow 1,900,000 baht, over $50,000, to build a house on land that wasn't hers, with contractors who didn't exist, for a future we'd never have. She has a Thai boyfriend? I finally managed to ask. Yes, long time. Maybe 7, 8 years. He come here sometimes. Nice guy, but he doesn't work much. I think maybe Dao takes care of him. With my money. Dao was taking care of her Thai boyfriend with my money. The sick mother, the motorbike, the apartment deposit, the gambling debt, the house, all of it had been funneled to support her real life with someone else while I'd been nothing but a convenient ATM. I thanked the neighbor and walked back to my rental car. Sat there for a long time, staring at the empty land, trying to process the enormity of what I'd just discovered. I'd been scammed. Systematically, thoroughly, completely scammed. Dao had identified me as a target, deployed every technique in her arsenal, and extracted nearly every dollar I had while making me believe I was building a future with someone who cared about me. I finally understood what I'd been seeing in the eyes of those other expats in Chiang Mai and Pattaya. The sadness beneath the smiles, the desperation beneath the apparent happiness. They were all like me, men who'd come to Thailand looking for connection and found skilled predators instead. I drove back to Pattaya in a daze. My mind kept cycling through the relationship, reinterpreting every moment through the lens of what I now knew. Every kindness had been strategic. Every smile had been calculated. Every tear had been performance. And I'd believed all of it. Because I'd wanted to. Because the alternative that I was being systematically exploited was too painful to consider. When I got back to my apartment, I found Dao's things were gone. She'd cleaned out while I was away, her clothes, her toiletries, the small items she'd gradually accumulated over the months. The only thing she'd left was a note. "I'm sorry. I had to go take care of family emergency. I will call you soon." She never called. Her phone was disconnected. Her line account was deleted. She'd vanished as completely as the house she'd promised to build. I sat on my bed, our bed, where she'd slept beside me for months, pretending to care, and whispered to no one, "I gave you everything I had left." Over the following weeks, I started talking to other expats more openly, not making small talk at bars, but actually sharing what had happened to me. And the stories came pouring out. Paul, a 67-year-old Brit I'd met at a coffee shop, lost 90,000 pounds building a house for my girlfriend. Took 2 years. When it was finished, she moved her Thai husband in and told me to leave. Turns out the land was in her name, the house was in her name, and I had no legal rights to any of it. I flew back to the UK with 20,000 pounds to my name. That's what's left from 40 years of working. Ben, a 72-year-old Australian who lived in my building, paid medical bills for my girlfriend's family for 2 years. Maybe $60,000 total. She'd send me photos from the hospital, her mother, her father, her brother, always someone sick, always needing treatment. I found out later the photos were from Google. Her family was fine. They weren't even sick. She was just taking my money and using it to support her Thai boyfriend and their 2 kids. Marcus, a 58-year-old German I'd drink with occasionally, sent 1.2 million baht to my girlfriend who was supposedly studying to be a nurse. Paid her tuition, books, living expenses, everything. Went to visit her at university and discovered she wasn't enrolled anywhere. She'd been working at a beer bar in Pattaya the whole time, using my money to pay for her apartment and her boyfriend's truck. Richard, a 65-year-old Canadian who'd been in Thailand for 8 years, bought 2 condos in my girlfriend's name. We were married, so I thought it was safe. Spent $400,000 total. When I asked about adding my name to the titles, she kept making excuses. Finally, I pushed harder, and she admitted she'd put them in her sister's name, not hers. I don't own anything. I've been paying mortgages on property I have no legal claim to for 8 years. Every man had a variation of the same story. Different woman, different excuse, different scam, but the same fundamental structure. Identify a lonely Western man with money. Build trust through apparent kindness and affection. Extract money through manufactured emergencies and investment opportunities. Disappear or kick him out once the well runs dry. And we'd all fallen for it. Every single one of us. Because we were lonely, and they were kind, and we'd wanted so desperately to believe that someone could genuinely care about us. Why didn't anyone warn us? I asked one night when a group of us were drinking together, sharing our losses like war veterans comparing scars. People did warn us, Paul said. We just didn't listen. I had mates back in the UK telling me to be careful, that Thai women marry older Western men for money. I told them they were being racist, that my girlfriend was different, that they didn't understand Thai culture. Same, Ben agreed. My own son tried to talk sense into me, said the relationship didn't make sense, that I should protect my money. I cut him off for months because I thought he was being disrespectful to my girlfriend. Now I realize he was the only one telling me the truth. We'd all ignored the warnings, because acknowledging the warnings would have meant admitting we were being used, and that admission would have destroyed the illusion we were living in. Better to believe we'd found genuine love than to face the reality that we were just ATMs with emotions. The worst part, Richard said quietly, is that I can't even hate her. My girlfriend, my wife. She didn't do anything technically illegal. I gave her the money voluntarily. Put property in her name because foreigners can't own land. It was all consensual. I was just too stupid to see what was really happening. We weren't stupid, I said. We were lonely. There's a difference. Is there? Paul asked. Because from where I'm sitting, lonely looks a lot like stupid. As I listened to more stories and compared experiences with other victims, a clear pattern emerged. The scams weren't random or improvised. They were systematic, refined over years of practice, passed down through networks of women who'd learned what worked. The pattern went like this. Phase 1. Target selection. The women would identify vulnerable men. Not rich men necessarily, but men with savings or steady pensions. Men who were older, divorced, lonely. Men who showed signs of being emotionally starved and desperate for affection. Red flags they looked for. Living alone, few local friends, eagerness to chat with strangers, visible need for companionship. Men like me, basically. Men who wore their loneliness like a sign saying, exploit me. Phase 2. Trust building. The women would build trust slowly, carefully. They'd refuse money initially, making the men insist on helping. They'd emphasize being different from other Thai women, positioning themselves as seeking genuine relationships rather than financial transactions. They'd share carefully calibrated sob stories about their difficult lives, sick family members, lack of opportunities. Just enough hardship to generate sympathy without triggering suspicion. Phase 3. Small extractions. The first money requests would be small and justified by emergencies. Sick mother, lost phone, dangerous debt collector. Nothing big enough to alarm the victim, but enough to establish a pattern of the man providing financial support. Each successful extraction would be followed by gratitude and increased affection, conditioning the man to associate giving money with receiving love. Phase 4. The big score. Once the victim was fully invested emotionally and financially, the big request would come. A house, a business, property investment, something requiring tens of thousands of dollars, framed as an investment in our future together. The victim, already having given smaller amounts and wanting to believe in the relationship, would agree, often depleting savings or taking loans to finance the project. Phase 5. The exit. Once the money was extracted, the woman would either disappear entirely or create conditions that made the relationship untenable. In property scams, the victim would discover they had no legal ownership. In business scams, the business would fail. In house scams, construction would never actually happen. The women would typically have Thai boyfriends or husbands in the background the whole time, men who were part of the operation, who helped launder money and provide cover stories. I'd lived through all 5 phases. So had Paul, Ben, Marcus, Richard, and dozens of other men I met. We'd all been run through the same systematic exploitation, and we'd all ended up broken. How many men do you think this happens to? I asked Paul one evening. In Pattaya alone? Hundreds per year. Maybe thousands. In all of Thailand? Tens of thousands. Most of them never talk about it because they're too embarrassed. They just quietly lose everything and go home. And the women never face consequences? Almost never. What are they guilty of? Accepting gifts from boyfriends? Making bad business investments with money that was given voluntarily? The Thai police don't care. From their perspective, it's foreigners' own fault for being stupid with their money. He was right. None of the women would face legal consequences for what they'd done. They'd just move on to the next victim, run the same playbook, extract more money. It was a perfect crime, socially acceptable, legally defensible, and endlessly renewable. One night, a group of us did the math. We were drinking at a bar in Pattaya, drowning our sorrows and our shame, when someone suggested we calculate the total losses among just the men at our table. Paul, 90,000 pounds, about $112,000. Ben, $60,000. Odd, about $42,000. Marcus, 45,000 euros, about $49,000. Richard, $400,000. CAD, about $298,000. Me, $250. $1,000. Three other guys at the table had losses ranging from $30,000 to $85,000. Total among 8 men, approximately $925,000. Nearly $1 million, stolen through romance scams from just 8 guys sitting in one bar on one evening. And we were just a tiny fraction of the victims in Pattaya, which was itself just one city among many in Thailand where these scams operated. Multiply this across all of Thailand, Paul said. Thousands of victims per year, average loss maybe $75,000 to $100,000. You're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars annually flowing from Western men to Thai romance scammers. It's an industry, Ben said. A whole fucking industry built on exploiting lonely men. He was right. Romance scamming wasn't just individual women being opportunistic. It was a systematic, organized operation with established techniques, support networks, and infrastructure. The women shared information about targets, taught each other what worked, and protected each other from consequences. And it worked because the targets, men like us, were essentially perfect victims. We had money, but not infinite money. We were emotionally vulnerable, but too proud to admit it. We were isolated in a foreign country with limited language skills and even more limited understanding of legal recourse. We were desperate for connection and willing to pay for the illusion of love. Why do so many Western men come to Thailand? Richard asked. Really, why are we all here? We went around the table, each man sharing his reason. Paul, my wife died. Couldn't stand being alone in the house we'd shared for 40 years. Ben, divorced. My ex took half of everything. Couldn't afford to stay in Australia. Marcus, never married. Worked my whole life, woke up at 58 and realized I had money but no life. Richard, divorced twice. Decided I'd rather be single somewhere warm and cheap than somewhere cold and expensive. Me, retired. Ex-wife remarried. Spent 33 years risking my life for people who didn't care. Wanted to feel valued for once. Every answer was some variation of loneliness. Some version of I had money but not love. And I came to Thailand hoping to find what I'd been missing. And the women who scammed us understood that loneliness better than we understood it ourselves. They knew exactly what we needed to hear, how to make us feel valued, how to exploit the emptiness inside us until our bank accounts were as empty as our hearts. We didn't come to Thailand to get scammed, I said. We came here to stop being lonely. The scams just found us because loneliness makes you easy to exploit. Everyone at the table nodded. We all understood. We'd all lived it. And we'd all lost nearly everything because we'd confused paid affection with genuine love. I left Thailand 6 months ago, came back to Phoenix with $14,000, all that remained of the $265,000 I'd arrived with. I'd spent $251,000 over 2.5 years, almost all of it on Dow and her endless emergencies. The apartment I'm living in now is nothing like the condo I had in Pattaya. Small, dark, cheap, all I can afford on my pension now that my savings are gone. I work part-time at a hardware store not because I need the money exactly, but because I need something to do, some structure to my days. My friends from the fire department avoid me. They tried to warn me about Thailand, and I'd brush them off. Now they don't know what to say to me, and I don't know how to explain what happened without sounding like the world's biggest fool. I don't date. Can't imagine trusting another woman after what Dow did to me. Can't imagine believing that anyone's kindness is genuine rather than strategic. The walls I'd built as a firefighter, the ones that destroyed my marriage to Linda, are back and reinforced with steel. I'm 61 years old, nearly broke, emotionally destroyed, and more alone than I've ever been. The retirement I'd planned traveling, relaxing, enjoying my remaining years is gone. Now I'm just marking time until I die, working part-time jobs to supplement a pension that has to last another 20 or 30 years. This is what romance scamming does. It doesn't just take your money. It takes your ability to trust, your willingness to hope, your belief that you deserve genuine affection. It takes everything that makes life worth living and leaves you with nothing but shame and isolation. I hear stories sometimes about other men who went to Thailand and came back broke. Same pattern, different details. The embassy sees hundreds of cases per year. American men who've lost everything, can't afford plane tickets home, living in hostels, and begging for government assistance to repatriate. Most of us never report the scams. We're too embarrassed. too ashamed of our own stupidity. We just quietly absorb our losses and try to rebuild whatever's left of our lives. The women who scammed us, they face no consequences. Dow is probably with another foreign man right now, running the same playbook, extracting the same money. Or maybe she's living comfortably on the $251,000 she took from me, supporting her Thai boyfriend and their life together. I'll never know. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Knowing wouldn't give me my money back, wouldn't give me my ability to trust back, wouldn't make the past 2.5 years any less devastating. All I can do is tell my story, warn other men who might be considering the same journey I took, help them understand what really happens to the majority of Western expats who move to Thailand full-time. We don't live happily ever after. We don't find genuine love with beautiful young women who just happen to value older Western men. We get systematically exploited, lose our savings, and come home broke and broken. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. Because admitting it means admitting that lonely men are easy targets. That affection can be faked. That kindness doesn't always mean what it appears to mean. Thailand doesn't scam your wallet first. It scams your heart. And by the time you realize what's happening, you've already given away everything trying to hold on to something that was never real. People ask me sometimes if I blame Thailand, if I think the country is fundamentally corrupt or dangerous. The answer is no. Thailand didn't scam me, one person did. Dow saw an opportunity and took it, but that could happen anywhere. Lonely people are vulnerable everywhere, not just in Southeast Asia. What Thailand offers is infrastructure that makes these scams easier and more profitable. A large population of poor women looking for ways to support themselves and their families. A constant stream of lonely Western men with money and emotional needs. A culture that sometimes tolerates or even encourages these transactional relationships. Legal systems that offer little recourse for victims. But the fundamental problem isn't Thailand, it's loneliness. It's the fact that millions of older Western men have money but not connection, wealth but not love, comfortable lives but not happiness. And when you're that lonely, you become desperate enough to believe anything that promises to fill the void. I didn't go to Thailand looking for a scam. I went looking for peace, for companionship, for a place where I could feel valued instead of invisible. Dow gave me that feeling, or at least the illusion of it, and I was willing to pay any price to maintain the illusion. That's the real trap. Not the sick mother stories or the property investment scams. The real trap is the feeling of being wanted, of mattering to someone, of having a purpose beyond just existing and waiting to die. Dow made me feel those things, and I paid her $251,000 for the privilege of feeling them. Even though none of it was real. Was it worth it? Objectively, no. I'm nearly broke at 61, working retail jobs, living in a small apartment, with no prospects of ever regaining the financial security I once had. I'll be working and scraping by for the rest of my life because I was too lonely to see what was obvious to everyone else. But subjectively, for those 8 months before I discovered the truth, I was happier than I'd been in years. I felt valued. I felt loved. I felt like my life had purpose again. Those feelings were purchased with deception and money I couldn't afford to lose, but they were still real to me, in the moment. The happiness was genuine, even if the source was fake. That's the cruelty of romance scamming. It gives you exactly what you're desperate for: connection, affection, purpose, just long enough to extract everything you have. Then it vanishes, leaving you with nothing but memories you can't trust and a future you can't afford. If you're a Western man considering moving to Thailand, here's what I want you to know. Yes, it's a beautiful country. Yes, the cost of living is low. Yes, there's a large expat community. Yes, Thai people are generally kind and welcoming. But if you're going there because you're lonely, if you're running from divorce or widowhood or decades of isolation, you need to understand something. That loneliness makes you a target. There are women in Thailand who've refined the art of exploiting lonely Western men. They know exactly what to say, how to act, when to ask for money, and how to maximize extraction before disappearing. They're not all Thai women. Most Thai women are honest people trying to live honest lives. But the ones who run these scams are exceptionally good at what they do. You won't spot them by looking. Dow didn't work in a bar. She didn't dress provocatively. She wasn't obvious about what she was doing. She was professional, patient and skilled. She played a long game, building trust over months before making her big move. The warning signs aren't in how she looks or where she works. They're in patterns. Does she emphasize being different from other Thai women? Red flag. Does she have recurring family emergencies that always require money? Red flag. Does she encourage you to invest in property or businesses in her name? Red flag. Does she keep parts of her life private or hidden from you? Red flag. Does she have a Thai boyfriend or husband she hasn't mentioned? Almost certainly. But here's the thing. You won't believe the red flags. You'll rationalize them. Explain them away. Convince yourself that your situation is different. Because acknowledging the red flags means admitting you're being scammed, and that admission will destroy the feeling of being valued that you've been desperately chasing. I saw every red flag with Dow. Other expats warned me. My instincts told me something was off, but I ignored all of it because feeling loved, even fake love, felt better than facing my loneliness. That's why the majority of Western expats leave Thailand broke. Not because we're stupid, not because we don't see the warning signs, but because we're so desperately lonely that we'd rather lose everything than admit we're being used. If you can't handle that truth, if you're convinced your situation will be different, then you'll probably end up like me. Sitting in a dark apartment with $14,000 to your name, wondering how you let someone steal everything you had while you smiled and thanked them for it. Thailand doesn't scam your wallet first, it scams your heart. And by the time you realize what's happening, it's too late. I'm recording this in my apartment in Phoenix, 3 years after I first went to Thailand with hope in my heart and money in my pocket. I came back with neither. The money's gone $251,000 spent on a woman who never loved me, and a house that was never built. The hope's gone too. I don't believe in love anymore. Don't trust kindness. Don't think I'll ever feel valued by another human being. But I'm still here, still working my part-time hardware store job, still living in my small apartment, still paying bills and buying groceries and going through the motions of being alive. I've told my story to warn others, but I don't expect it to matter. Men like me, lonely, desperate, emotionally starved, don't listen to warnings. We think we're special, that our situations are different, that the woman who seems to care about us is the exception to the rule. We're not special. Our situations aren't different. The women who seem to care are just skilled actors playing a well-rehearsed role. And we'll figure that out eventually. After we've lost our savings, after we've invested in houses that don't exist and businesses that were never real, after the women we love have vanished with our money and we're left sitting alone, wondering how we were so blind. The majority of Western expats leave Thailand broke. I'm not unique. I'm just one of thousands who've gone through the same pattern, lost the same way, for the same reasons. We went looking for love. We found skilled predators instead. And we paid everything we had for the brief illusion that someone cared about us. That's the real story of Western expats in Thailand. Not the beaches and temples and cheap living, but the loneliness, the exploitation, the systematic destruction of men who just wanted to feel valued for once in their lives. I gave Dow everything I had left, and she took it without remorse, without guilt, without a second thought. Because to her, I was never a person. I was just a resource to be extracted. That's what most of us are to most of them. Resources. ATMs with emotions. Temporary solutions to their financial problems. And we'll keep going to Thailand. Keep falling for the same scams. Keep losing everything. Because loneliness doesn't respond to logic or warnings or other people's experiences. Loneliness just makes you stupid. And stupid people lose their money in Thailand. I should know. I'm living proof.